The wedding dress is perhaps not only symbolic of taking a major step in your life, it's symbolic of self-expression. And that's what I try to do as a designer and as a woman and as a person. I try to encourage women to be who they wish to be.
Vera Wang did what many thought was impossible. She brought fashion to what was formerly a fashion wasteland, the bridal industry. By stripping away gratuitous ribbons and bows and adding a modern touch, she gave brides dresses that they would want to wear again and again and again.
I always say to brides, if I got married, anybody can get married.
Vera herself didn't hear wedding bells until the divine age of 40. She may not have been ecstatic over her bridal gown, but last year, 10,000 brides walked down the aisle in the Vera Wang dress of their dreams.
To me, it's about women. And what I try to design is I try to intuit who all these different women are and to give them that possibility for that day.
Vera Wang is the standard in bridal. I think every girl's fantasy is like, oh, if I could have a Vera Wang gown on my wedding day, that would be perfection.
The world's most celebrated women turn to Vera for their blissful day.
Oh, the wedding dress, it's the divine obsession. It is more than just a dress. It's about a dream. It's about the embodiment of someone's personal life, most personal and private feelings.
Vera revolutionized the industry because I think she took wedding dresses off the cake. And what Vera said was that your wedding dress should kind of be your ultimate dress. So she gave, I think, clothing that women could relate to for the first time as not only being that bride, but also being a modern bride, a beautiful bride, a sexy bride.
Underneath all the ritual and pomp and circumstance and sometimes religion is a desire to be seductive and sensual and to feel womanly. Sexy's always important to me. The body's important to me, and particularly, I think, sensuality on a bride's wedding day is one of the most important times. I don't think even in a full dress they have to look, like a cake. I think there's still a sensuality and a sex appeal that should come through, particularly on a bride's wedding day. Usually it isn't the most romantic night of your life, unfortunately, because you're tired. I'll speak for myself. I was exhausted the night of my wedding, and after waiting 40 years to get married, it certainly was a long time coming for me. I never thought I'd ever get married, so it was just, I think my parents are more, grateful or relieved, or I don't know what they were, but we were all exhausted by the end of that evening. But I have to say that how I wanted to appear for my husband was to be sensual.
Vera entered the bridal business in 1990 with the financial backing of her father. It was just 6 months after her own wedding. Through Vera's own frustration in finding the wedding gown of her dreams, she realized the need for dresses that were less frilly and more fashionable.
When I got engaged at the ripe old age of 40 and went looking for a dress, bridal had been reduced to a uniform. I felt that women, at least modern women today, have evolved so much. I mean, my God, they're all different personal styles. And I think on perhaps the most emotional day of your life, you should have choices. I really felt that weddings should be expressive of who each individual woman was. And so it was a very rare position for someone from such a strong fashion background to go into this area and to focus so much attention on this area.
Vera has had a tremendous impact. She was one of the first people to make wedding dresses modern. She has a great sense of style. She has great personal style, and she's a modern woman. She's a career woman. You know, she's always worked. She, I think, knows what a modern woman wants, but at the same time, she also knows that a bride wants to feel special and romantic on their wedding day.
Vera didn't set out to be a bridal guru. This petite powerhouse gets her natural grace and indomitable demeanor from competitive figure skating. In 1992, she designed the iconic white dress for Olympic skater Nancy Kerrigan.
I loved figure skating. I love it today. It is a sport in which not only do you have to have tremendous athletic prowess, and it has to look effortless, but you also have to interpret music, you have to act, you have to move and sell yourself. And that's what made it so unique. And you had freedom out there on the ice. That was something that I loved more than anything other than fashion.
When Vera Wang entered the bridal industry, she really brought fashion into an industry that hadn't really experienced it before. The wedding gown was a ceremonial garment, a traditional garment, but it didn't really connect in any way to fashion.
Educated at Chapin, Sarah Lawrence College, and the Sorbonne in Paris, at 23, Vera was the youngest fashion editor ever at Vogue magazine, a stint that lasted 16 years. From there, she went on to become a design director for Ralph Lauren. Vera perfected her aesthetic sense with the fashion industry's best.
Oh my God, I mean, those are the Harvard Business Schools of fashion, if there can be such a thing. I think, you know, Vogue has been, my career at Vogue was the most fortuitous thing I ever did in my entire life. When I failed to make the Olympic team as a figure skater, I was looking for something about which I would feel as passionate and as emotional as I did about skating. And I just marched right into Vogue, and I asked for a job, and I got it after a typing course. So I was suddenly thrust into this world of Yves Saint Laurent, Richard Avedon, Francesco Scavullo. And from the moment I arrived, it was the greatest learning process anyone could ever have.
Vera, after she left Vogue, she worked so hard to start her own company and to build it to the empire that it's become. She's done it with a real focus and a real sensibility of who she is and what customers she's trying to dress.
She's a great, wonderful woman who's very in love with what she's doing, and she's excellent. One of my favorites.
It was because of my years at Vogue that I actually got a job with Ralph. And yet again, it was one of those incomprehensible experiences. I mean, to walk into a company that big, and I mean big, with so much talent at your fingertips, those are lessons that are invaluable.
And there, Vera learned the importance of building a brand. This busy mother of two is expanding her ultra-chic world beyond bridal.
Like any designer, I dreamt of a fragrance. Perhaps it could symbolize also my philosophy about women in another way. Scent can really conjure up memories for people. I know my very first date, I still remember it because of the fragrance. My mother came up to me and she said, "Here, put some of this on behind your earlobes because you really want to smell wonderfully and beautifully and to be attractive for your first date." And I was already so overwhelmed with hormones and, fashion and wanting to be beautiful and seductive. I don't know if I even knew what words they were, but I knew how I wanted to, something about me knew how I wanted to feel. And the excitement when you're young and you have your whole life in front of you. And I mean, God, is there anything better than that? It was that little bit of fragrance that made me feel like a woman. I'm hopefully building memories for some women that they will feel the sensuality that I tried to bring in my clothes.
Since the company's inception, Vera has also concentrated on unapologetically sleek evening wear. Whether couture or ready-to-wear, Vera designs for the socially sophisticated woman.
Vera has extraordinary impact on the world of fashion, not just for her bridal collection, but for her fashion collection as well.
Some of Hollywood's most photographed women choose the understated glamour of Vera Wang for their red carpet moments.
She's got exquisite taste. I think she has a real elegance without sacrificing a certain kind of sexiness. But I think her sexuality is not overt. I think Vera's is more subtle.
I sort of envision the women I dress as more, shall I say, perhaps a bit artier and more esoteric and subtler. I don't think I'm the designer for someone who really is looking for, tits and ass. I mean, that just isn't my kind of aesthetic, or flashy. So, in order to create clothes that are subtle but interesting, is a constant challenge.
There's always a subtlety in Vera's work. It's not in your face, it's not overblown or flamboyant. It's just a subtlety and a refinement of line and refinement of detail. The dress can be ornamented with a lot of embellishment, but it's never overkill.
It's a woman designing for women, so she knows really what women want to show, what they don't want to show. It's just that feeling.
There's no question that a woman inherently feels how other women feel. So I wouldn't say it's an advantage, it's an intuition. It's feeling how clothes feel on your body. It's something I can just slip on, I can feel the weight, I can feel the texture, I can feel whether it moves or doesn't move, whether it's strict or it's soft. And those are things that are just irreplaceable in terms of creating a garment. Perhaps the reason I use the word modern for my clothes is because I am influenced by the past. I mean, I study always what came before. And that's very, very important to me to understand, that vocabulary. But I like to translate in how we would wear it today. How a woman that is a modern woman today and how she lives and how she's going to wear a dress. I always like to find details. I'm very detail oriented, and they're nuances. If you really look at our clothes, you'll find little surprises. Even behind the ruffles, the thread traces inside. So it's sort of like a little surprise in the package. You look at a dress from far away, but then you find all the collars and hems are hand fringed. So that's what I love to bring to my clothes. For me, the challenge of being a designer is making myself better, to speak to women with your own voice through what you do, And I think of women who wear my clothes or women who come to me, know that there will be that sensuality, and there will be a certain subtlety, and there will be, hopefully, a certain intelligence to the clothes and a certain grace. The wonderful thing about doing both ready-to-wear and bridal is that bridal gives me a chance sometimes to be extravagant in a way that I can't always be for ready-to-wear. I love things that are slightly off or a little bit more esoteric, and I love to bring that. And that to me is a modern approach to wedding, because wedding is a very traditional world.
Some of the dresses that she presents will be a stylish statement, and then the bride can wear it a year later at a big evening event. And then she has a traditional dress that will be heirloom, will go down, passed from generation to generation. And that comes from a great deal of her own culture, her own Asian culture.
Vera had a privileged upbringing, but from an early age, her parents stressed the value of hard work and gratitude.
Well, my mother and father were enormous influences because they are, to this day, very real people. It is that daily pounding that I got, that I still get, that makes me realize that, we should just be grateful if we're healthy and if we have food on the table. And that may sound pretentious to say, but that is very much a Chinese mentality. There is a humility and there's a subtlety to Chinese people and Chinese cultures. I think it's that love of all things graceful and all things intelligent and all things poetic. And I think that's always in the back of my mind when I'm working.
Graceful and poetic is Vera's book, Vera Wang on Weddings. It is the ultimate bridal guide. Hundreds of women come to book signings to meet the fairy godmother of matrimony.
The book was a dream and a nightmare. The book was a dream because I so wanted to express to women that I can never meet, that I will never see, but that wear my clothes, how I felt about them, and how I felt as a woman designer, and how I felt as a woman, as a mother, and that all the fears that we have about ourselves as women, that we're not beautiful enough, that we're not special enough, that we're not accomplished enough, that we're not young enough. I didn't put which birthday. Never do that with the girls. Many things about which we cannot completely change. I wanted them to feel that it's okay that we all have the same self-doubts. The nightmare part, of course, was writing it with the schedule I have, but I did write every word, and that was because I felt that it had to come from me, and no one else could really write what was in my head and what was in my heart.
Darling, flowers for you. I'm sorry for the last 10 years.
I know. I love it. What a great day. Yikes. So we got married. Anybody can get married. The working girl went on her date. He didn't really think that this sort of hip career girl from New York was going to be sitting with her entire family at dinner. But he got over it. He got over it very quickly, and actually I punished him for that. I didn't marry him for 10 years after that. We had a relationship that was truly Harry met Sally. I knew all his girlfriends, he knew all my boyfriends. We were together, we were apart, we came back together. We decided to break up, then we finally did get married. It's been a challenge, like everything else in my life, to mesh two different personalities together and two different cultures together and two different professions together. But you know, it's also a wonderful way to go through life, to know that you have a best friend. The private part of me is someone that adores sensuality, adores romance, and that's a side I keep usually pretty well hidden from people that I know, but I think I say it in what I do, in my work.
The most important thing is the work ethos and the ability to translate her sense of confidence about style, not fashion, style.
She's worn a lot of designer clothes in her lifetime. She knows which ones work and which ones don't, and why. And I think she's carried that into her own business.
Oh, she's completely energetic, probably somewhat a little mad, but she's a perfectionist, and I think that's why she accomplishes what she does with all her energy and talent, and you know, she's channeling it, and that's genius.
Well, I have so much admiration for Vera because it's really hard to be an independent designer today without a huge conglomerate behind you. I mean, there are so few women designers really that succeed that it's great to see that Vera has made it.
I wouldn't call it success. I call it the grand experiment. That's what I call my life. Do I have any fear of failing? I don't feel I honestly don't feel as though I've succeeded. There's not a day I'm not frightened. It's a very challenging process to build a company up from nothing. There are days I get really feel very defeated because I just feel so overwhelmed. That's the truth. You know, I wish I could be there more for my kids. I love being a mom. It's crazy. It's just crazy, and it makes me feel really young. To see the world through my children's eyes, it makes me feel young. I only hope that someday my daughters don't roll their eyes around when they think of me. They maybe think that I tried to set some sort of example for them for their dreams. That won't be happening for a while, I can tell you. It's about daring to dream and daring to try, and I guess that would be my definition of success. Like anyone else, it's a juggling act. Like anyone else, it's an imperfect science. And like anyone else, you get discouraged. But again, it's like dusting your fanny off, getting up, and trying that double axel again.